So, today I was thinking to talk about one very, very important concept that is not just a concept, it is an aspect of our practice. It's something which is really fundamentally important on our path, which in Sanskrit is called samaya, in Tibetan is called tamsik. There is not a precise translation in English because some aspects have one translation and other aspects have another translation. So maybe to translate it, we need more than one word, depending on the context in which we go also. So, we will see, slowly today we will see the meaning of it. Then maybe we can find a better word for it. But first of all, we will look at the important. So, samaya, in many texts, it says, without samaya, it's not possible to gain the realization. Without keeping correctly and keeping purely one's own samaya, it's not possible to gain the realization. Which means, when we have first an initial intention, I want to reach something, I want to realize something, is keeping purely the samaya that actually allow us to reach and to realize that objective. If we do not keep correctly, if we do not keep purely our own samaya, this means that we will not be able to bring something from the plane, from the state of wishing to the state of realizing it. Okay? And this actually refers not only to the spiritual path, both of Sutra and Tantra. Especially in Tantra, it's given a very strong emphasis on this. Like, if we take any practice, it can be the practice of Tara or the practice of Vajrayogini or Yamantaka, any practice we like to do. It is said, in order to gain the realizations, in order to make it real, to realize it, we must have received the transmission and empowerment from a pure lineage, and we must keep purely our samayas. This is the first thing. Okay. So, if we have not kept purely our samayas, it's not possible. But not only in the spiritual path, also in the mundane world, in our daily things, anywhere, to keep purely our samayas is what allow us to reach objectives, to gain our own mundane realizations also. So first of all, before we start explaining what samaya is, we just remember samaya is extremely important. It's what allows us to go from where we are to somewhere else. It's what allows us truly to realize what we want. Okay? So in this sense that it's very, very, very important. So in both Sutra and Tantra, it's saying that we need to keep our samayas as precious as our own lives. So it's something that it's very, very important. Okay? So, one of the important things for us to understand before we enter into the actual meaning of samaya is that in our life, we function based on habits, not based on understanding. Which means our actions in our daily lives, and normally as we go, the way that we speak, the way that the choices that we make, the way how we relate ourselves to others, the way how we think, most of the things that we do, sometimes not, but most of the times, we are basically acting out of habits, not out of thinking, not out of understanding. Okay? So habits basically are patterns of our actions that because we repeat them a few times or many times, depend on the habits, it becomes something that we don't need to put effort. It just comes like that. That's our natural way of reacting to the world. That's our natural way of dealing with the situations and so on and so on. Okay? So we have this natural way of acting. And normally, whenever there is something that we are not used to do, it is a bit difficult. Unless there are few things like when things that are very pleasurable and things that are very easy and so on, that when we do them few times, then we don't want to do differently. Again, we get used very easy, Like a friend was always joking, the only problem of traveling in business class, that after you don't want to travel anymore in economic. which means once you have something that you feel more comfortable, you feel better, then it's difficult to go back to something that is less comfortable. Okay? So, but otherwise, normally in our daily life, to create new habit is not something obvious. To change the pattern of the mind is not something obvious. But the thing that we need to understand here now is that we do work out of habit. We can understand some things very clearly, but until it doesn't become a habit, it won't really change. So, understanding it's good, but it's not really the main thing. The main thing is familiarizing ourselves, is making a habit. So we act mainly out of habit. And these habits are present in every aspect of our lives. Okay? This is one important point for us. So, the other aspect, which is important also for us to understand a bit more about samaya, is that not only we work and we function out of habits, but also we are not really truly emotionally stable, most of us. Okay? Most of us live in an emotional roller coaster. We go up and we go down, and we have like good moments and bad moments. And then, like a few weeks ago, we were talking here about like our inner weather report, no? Like there are days where inside everything is sunny, and then we look at everything and everything looks clear. We know what we want to do, we know our path, the things are clear, everything is beautiful. But then there are days which is raining inside, and then we have no clarity and everything looks bad and we're very sad. Or there are days that it's a very misty and dark. We don't know. It's like, and then there are days in which we don't have the same clarity as before. Things are not so clear what I should do, how I should go, and it becomes difficult. So emotionally, most of us, we are not so stable. We are mostly like in a sort of inner roller coaster than in a stable, beautiful path, okay? We go up and then we go down, and sometimes we stay down for a longer period. Other times we stay a little bit up, and then like this is what we do normally. And each one of us, we have a different track, okay? Some of us are more stable, some of us are less stable, but the fact is that for most of us, we do not really live in a very good emotional stability state. Most of us, we are constantly up and down, and we don't have always that same clarity. So, two things. We function out of habits, and we do not have always the same clarity, the same stability, the same positive emotions. We are up and down. Okay? I think that's very clear, right? Well, so, as we have just seen, we actually act mostly out of habits, and our mind is not always stable in the same way. Okay? So what happens is that in order for us to change habits, because on our path, just understanding is not enough. We need to create positive habits, and we need to eliminate negative habits. Okay? That's why also normally in the path to enlightenment, it is called the process of listening, comprehending, and meditating. The process of meditating means of familiarizing ourselves with something. So basically, we recognize how we want to be. We recognize which are the attitudes we want to have of body, of speech, of mind. We recognize ourselves on that. And then what we do, we start acting in order to develop them. We start familiarizing ourselves with that we want to become. Okay? So first there is a wish, first there is a desire, first there is an aspiration of what we want to become, and then based on that, we need to act in order to reach that. And one of the important things in order to reach that is our samaya. And what is the samaya in this context? There are two different contexts of the word samaya. In this context, the word samaya means keeping purely our commitment. Samaya means commitment. Which is, why do we need to make commitments? Because we want to act in a way, we want to do things and act in a way which does not come spontaneously. Okay? We don't need to make a commitment in order to breathe. Breathe. No, I'm not all talking about breathing with awareness, just breathing. We don't need to make a commitment to get jealous, because normally it would come automatically. We don't need to make a commitment to eat or to do anything that comes to us spontaneously. We don't need no commitment for that. The commitments we take there where we see that there is a certain type of behavior that is important for us to have, but that behavior doesn't come spontaneously. Where we see that there is some habit which is not good for us and we want to change that habit. So we need to make a commitment that opposes that habit. Why? Because it doesn't come easily. It doesn't come spontaneously. And that's why we need a commitment to hold on it. Which is not obvious to keep commitments in life. It's not something that comes spontaneously and easily. So the first thing that is important is understanding the importance that commitments are sacred, that I must keep my commitment, whatever it is. Like even if we look in a little bit in our Western world, in the Eastern and Western world both, but in the Western world lately, nowadays it's like, okay, I take a commitment, if I don't keep it, who cares, No. Some time ago, when I say, I give you my word, how powerful was that? Very powerful. No? There is this saying, I put my hand on fire. Because there was this story, and I don't remember the names, but of this guy in Rome, and he made a commitment, if something would happen, then he would put his hand on fire, and finally he put really his hand on fire. He burned his whole hand. Because he gave his word. And someone may say, oh, how stupid he is to burn his hand. He could find a way not to burn his hand. No. He gave his word. And to keep his own honor, to keep his own word. We even use this word to have a man or a woman, a person without honor is no one. It's a dead person. No? Because if we are not able to keep our own commitments, then what? Then we cannot direct ourselves. So, and actually, even nowadays, everything is based on commitments and is based on trust. Like, the difference is that because we do not trust our own words, we don't trust the words of others also. So finally, we need to write things, we need to sign, we need to have laws, and we need to make guarantees and this and that because we do not trust truly each other. Why? Because we are not respecting much the commitments that we take. So, it is actually very important that the first step that we must do is first of all recognize the importance of keeping our commitment. We must have this sort of pride in which you say, this is my commitment, I'm not going to let it go. So, it doesn't matter what is the commitment. A commitment is a commitment. And in the moment that I do not keep purely my own commitment, what does that mean? I am going against my own self. I am destroying my own self-esteem. I am not being able to keep myself on a path that I choose. So, first thing is remember that commitments are sacred. It's like, as it was saying in the text that I was just saying, as I was telling before, without commitments we cannot reach the realization. Why? Because to realize something, we need to create a habit that is not yet there, so it's not spontaneous. So by that, we need to act in a way that is not coming in the most spontaneous way. And for that, we need commitment, because it's very easy to lose the path. Why? Because we have habits which oppose us, and because we have days of clarity, which is easy to follow the path. And then we have days of darkness, of mist. We have days of rain, which is things are not clear, and then it's difficult to keep the commitment in that moment. And what is our experience? We make a commitment, whatever commitment. I will ring the bell 3 times a day. Okay? What happened when one day we forgot to ring the bell, or we did not really forget? We simply did not ring the bell out of our own laziness or whatever. The next day, will we ring the bell? No. So once we break a commitment, how easy is to regain back the commitment? Difficult. That's why normally we say if they have a commitment to do something daily, for example, I will meditate 10 minutes every day. The first day we don't meditate, then how long we stay without meditating? As long as it takes for us to retake again our commitment. It can be weeks, it can be months, it can be days, depends. But the fact is that once we take a commitment, it remains and as we keep it alive. In the moment that we break it, then we lose it completely. Then we need to retake again the commitment. It is said in the teachings that commitments, samayas, are physical aspect also of us. Whenever we make a commitment, we generate something physical in ourselves. It's called in Tibetan anamba rikche mayimbe suk, which means is a matter, form, that cannot be perceived by our senses. So we have this form inside of us. We have this is something which is material that is generated in the moment. I think it's more like energetic, but there is something there that is generated. We can feel it physically moment that we take truly a commitment. No? We can make many examples of this. For example, between two friends, when there is a commitment with someone, even if it's difficult, we are able to do it. When the commitment is broken, then we don't have anymore this something that sustains us to do that which is not easy. So when we break a commitment, then it's gone. Then what we need to do? We need to start again and regenerate again the commitment. It's okay. It's better than not doing it, but still it's better to keep the commitment. So because it's not easy, it's not obvious to keep our commitments, there are different aspects which help us on that, which has been there since the time of Buddha and much before, I suppose, even. First thing, we need to formalize the commitment. Okay? That's why we have ceremonies. That's why we have things to help us to formalize the commitments that we make. Second, we have witnesses. Because if I take a commitment with other people, mostly it will be easier for me to keep it. Third, we also have the substance of commitment. We put a ring on. We change our clothes. We cut our hair. We put something to remember us of our commitment. We change the color of our clothes. We put the mala on. We make something physical, material, that remembers us of our commitment. Why we need that? Because we can easily forget in common. Not really forget, but somehow we put it aside. So we need something material that remembers us, that reminds us of our commitment. So we formalize the commitment, we have witnesses with the commitment, and we have a substance of commitment, something that reminds us of our commitment. Then, at the same time, we also need to have a way of remembering us of our own commitment. That's why normally we recite it daily. Okay, I have this commitment to do this and to don't do that. We should repeat it to ourselves again and again, which means at least once a day. Because we have the tendency slowly to let it become more far away, and then slowly we let it fade away. Instead, we need to repeat to ourselves our commitments. Fifth point, which is very important also, we need to remember since the moment that we take the commitments, and if we verbalize our commitment and we write it down, which is nice, we put together also what are the consequences of not keeping that commitment. What are the negative consequences of not keeping a commitment? There is a simple consequence of going against our own commitment, whatever that commitment is, which is already quite something. We lose our own self-esteem. We lose trust in ourselves because we are not able to keep our own commitments. That's why also one of my gurus used to say, whenever you take a commitment, be careful not to take commitments when you are overexcited about something. So when you take a commitment, always make like half of what you would like to do somehow. Like if you have this enthusiasm of doing 1,000, you make the commitment of 500. Then if you can do 1,000, wonderful, but you have the commitment of 500 because you shouldn't break your own commitment. Even when entering into retreat, he was telling me that if I have the retreat and I have the time for the retreat of 1 month, when I enter the retreat, I make the commitment of 2 weeks. Then I can renew the commitment after. Why? Because if for whatever circumstances I'm not able to stay for a whole month, then I had broken my commitment. And that's not good at all. So it's very important to keep commitments. So we generate commitments that are not much bigger than what we know we can do. So it's better, it's a middle way. If we make a commitment that is too small, then we also don't keep it, because it means we are not even giving value to it. If we make a commitment out of enthusiasm that is too big, then after some time we also don't keep it anymore. So we need to have like the middle way, okay? Something that needs effort, but at the same time is not completely difficult. It's somehow more accessible to us. But we should write down, when we write our commitment, we should write down which are the consequences of not keeping it, because this will hold us from breaking it. It's like when buying a house, there is a document of agreement, no? In which a person is giving, at least here in Italy, it's like this, no? You give some money to the person that is selling the house, so the person commits that the person will sell the house to you. So what happens if I choose that I don't want anymore that house, I lose that money. And what happens if the person chooses that doesn't want to sell to me anymore? He needs to give me back double. So basically, what does this mean? Why we have these rules? To help us to keep the commitment. Because there is consequence, and we don't want the consequences. So there is a commitment. So even in the Dharma teachings, when we look about what we call downfalls means when we break a commitment. So there are many teachings, many texts where he's explaining all the negative consequences of breaking our commitments. Normally these are teachings that are not much given in the West because we don't like these things. Okay? But actually, it is something that is very important also. So, at least when we write down our commitment, we should also write down, okay, what are the consequences of not keeping it? Okay. Then, with this, we generate this strength. Again, why we need to make commitments? Because we are made out of habits, and very often we want to change our habits, or we want to develop something that goes against our mental patterns, the patterns of thought, the patterns of action, the patterns of choices that we have in our life. To go to the path of enlightenment is not something spontaneous. It's like walking against the current. It's like changing our habits, going against our own habits normally, until it become a habit. But otherwise, it's not something easy at all. And because of that, we need to have our own commitments. And first of all, we need to respect commitments. The samaya. Okay? I think it's quite clear, right? So now, also, another aspect that is important is that it may happen for us that we do not keep truly our commitment. So when we break the commitment, it's important also for us to learn that when we have a downfall, we need to stand up and continue our path, which means we regenerate our commitment. Okay, I did this, I was weak, whatever happened, so I fell down, now I need to stand up again, and I move on. I'm not staying there, oh, how bad I am because I break and this, that. I just said, okay, I did this mistake, now I stand up again and continue walking in the same direction. So we need to regenerate our commitment. Okay? Like the monastic system, you have this every 15 days. Okay? And every daily, there is the personal regeneration of one's own vows. And then there is the public one every 15 days. Anyhow, what happens is that in the moment that we make a commitment, it will happen inevitably that we get weaker and here and there. So what we need to do, we need to regenerate the commitment. And here it has two forms of doing that. One way is that when we break the commitment, we check why we break the commitment, what happened, and then we commit ourselves not to break it again, and then we regenerate again, we make again the same commitment. Okay? Then the other aspect to help us to prevent that is if we should daily regenerate the commitment even without breaking it. Should we give strength again to our commitment without breaking it? I commit myself to do this or not to do that, and so on and so on. And then every day we commit ourselves again. We remember which is our commitment. Another important thing is that there are two ways of making commitment: for a specific period of time or for an unlimited period of time. Okay? So if we are truly able to keep commitments, if we can truly value commitments, and we can really keep our commitments normally, then it's okay to take a long-term lifetime commitment, or even life's commitment. It's possible. If we are not able to keep our commitments, if we do not value commitments enough, then we need to take the commitments for a specific period of time to start with. And I'm sorry to say that's the case of most of us here. In our modern times, we do not value so much commitments, so we need to make commitments for first a specific period of time. I make a commitment for a week. I make a commitment for a month. That's the longest, I would say. Then, after that, we can renovate our commitment again and again. And then the more we renovate the commitment, the stronger it becomes, then the longer commitments we can make. But in the beginning, we need to make shorter commitments, and then slowly, slowly, we make it longer and longer and longer and longer. Then we can make a lifetime commitment. That's wonderful. But it starts with something that is smaller. Okay? Like there is this prayer, in the 6th session Guru Yoga, which says, Lama Gyawa Sejanam Dala Gombra Seduso, which comes from the Bodhisattva Charavatara. Lama Gyawa Sejanam Dala Gombra Seduso, Jidarangi Deshiki, Janju Tuni Kebada, Janju Sembe Labala, Tetaran Shinebata, the Gendrola Bendoto, Janju Simnikegi, Janju Sembe Labala, Rimba Shindu Labargi, which the meaning in few words means, Lama Gyawa Sejanam Dala Gombra Seduso, or Guru and Buddhas, please listen to me, please pay attention on me. Just as in the past, the Buddhas of the past, in order to reach enlightenment, have generated the bodhicitta and have kept their commitment to act for the benefit of sentient beings through the 6 perfections and through the path of the bodhisattva. Just to then, by that, they have reached the state of Buddhahood. Just in the same way, I also here today generate the commitment to reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And I will act in accordance to that commitment by realizing and perfecting the 6 perfections. Okay, now just simplify. So we make and we renew the commitment daily. We renew our commitment. We renew our commitment. Otherwise, slowly, slowly, it starts to fade away. We need to renew the commitment also. Okay. So this is one of the aspects of samaya that is very important. The other part of samaya, which we can talk another day more, is that samaya is also meaning keeping a pure relation. Like between two people, when there is trust, when there is friendship, when there is love, when there is this special truthful connection of trust to each other, it's also called having a pure samaya between the two. It's also used very much, it's commonly used in Tibetan when you want to say, oh, I have a very good relation with that person, we have like pure commitment to each other, we have a pure trust to each other, we say, oh, we have a pure samaya. Then, when there is something that first there was a friendship and then suddenly this friendship is not there anymore, there was trust and there is no trust, we say, okay, we lost the samaya. So this is another context of this word also. So the word samaya, we can translate it into commitment and also trust in a pure relationship. This is also depending on the context in which we use. And both of them are truly very much important. Okay, but another day we'll go more into that. Okay? So this was just today a little bit about samaya, about commitment, and then it depends on us because it's something very personal, the commitments that we take. But why we take commitments? Because we need to change our habits and because our mind is not stable. That's why we need commitments. Otherwise, there was no need for it. Okay? Otherwise, it was just enough to understand. But it's not like that. Lame kotse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepada losan tempe drume sasumgi drove musel tatu ne gyurchi Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan dele kshin. Nyinsen takto dele kpe. Koncho sumke jinge lom. Koncho sumke ngodrup tsol. Koncho sumke trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.